The room froze, and in that instant, the entire case began to unravel. Under oath in front of Congress, Special Counsel Jack Smith, the man who spent tens of millions of taxpayer dollars, rushed a historic indictment against a former president and pushed a trial timeline involving 13 million pages of evidence in just 5 months. Suddenly could not answer the simplest, most basic question: who swore you in? His eyes shifted, his voice tightened, and the silence that followed was louder than any accusation. This was the prosecutor who claimed absolute authority, yet he couldn't even recall the moment that gave him that power. Representative Russell Fry pressed harder, exposing a timeline that defied logic, a legal machine moving at breakneck speed while demanding the impossible from the defense. Millions of pages, millions of dollars, and a clock ticking toward a trial that could reshape American history. Critics now say this wasn't justice. It was acceleration without accountability, authority without transparency, and power without memory. So what exactly happened behind closed doors? And why couldn't Jack Smith explain the moment that made him special counsel? In the next clip, you'll hear Jack Smith's own words, and what he says may raise even more disturbing questions. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us as the truth begins to surface.
South Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, when was the initial indictment issued on President Trump? August 1st, 2023, does that sound about right?
That's in the election case. That's correct.
Correct. And on that election case, after that, you asked for a trial date when?
I don't recall as I sit here right now.
January 2024, does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
Okay, so after the indictment, you in August, you asked for a January trial date. That's like 5 months? 5 months? How much evidence did you have? Millions of pages?
As I sit here right now, I don't recall the exact
I think in your
size.
testimony, they talked about a number, 13 million pages. Is that a ballpark accurate number?
I think that was the question asked of me, and as I sit here, I don't have an accurate number for it.
So let's just assume that that's true, right? Because you had a bunch of stuff. You had $50 million that you blew through the Treasury on a trial that went nowhere. How many pages per day is that? 100,000? Does that sound about right? What if we break that down per hour? It's 4,166 per minute is 70 pages. You like to read, sir? You like to read?
I do.
Do you read 70 pages a minute?
I do not.
I mean, that would be remarkable. So how do you prepare for a trial in 5 months if you're asking the defense counsel to read 70 pages a minute? How do you do that and prepare a defense and look at all the witness testimony and video evidence that you supposedly had? How do you do that? You know what's shocking to me, and I think that one of the most egregious aspects of this case, Mr. Smith, is that if you get a traffic ticket in Washington, D.C., you're not going to trial in 5 months. But you want the president, the former president of the United States, to have a trial date with 13 million pages of documents within 5 months. I think that's ridiculous. And I think that speaks exactly to what we talk about when we examine not only your record, but the things in this case that are deeply troubling. That this was not the pursuit of facts and law and letting the judge and the jury decide. That this was an exercise in it was a political hit job, timed perfectly against the President of the United States. Sir, in the Florida case, in the records case, what happened ultimately in that case?
What happened ultimately in the case?
Yeah, the Mar-a-Lago records case.
I'm going to answer because I don't think this is covered by Judge Cannon's order. We moved to dismiss that case pursuant to Justice Department policy.
No, the records case in Florida.
Against Donald Trump.
The records case in Mar-a-Lago, were you
I'm
ruled to be, what was the ruling in that?
That was Judge Cannon's ruling, and she ruled my appointment unlawful, and we sought to appeal that, and that appeal was pending at the time that we dismissed the cases.
So from the very beginning, were you ever confirmed by the United States Senate?
I have never been confirmed by the United States Senate. I will say that The history supporting my appointment is over 100 years old. Other special counsels
But isn't there
have
a
been
statute on the
approved.
appointment? I mean, you have to be confirmed by the Senate. So I think that's kind of interesting. But I think the point is, from the very beginning, on the documents case and others, you weren't even lawfully appointed, and that's why Judge Cannon ruled the way that she did. And from the beginning, we talk about that you followed Department of Justice policy, you followed the facts, you followed the law, you followed the Constitution. That's what you have said all throughout this day, parroted by the Democrats, that you have done nothing wrong. But from the very beginning, you weren't even lawfully, and you can't even recall who swore you in. So as we sit here today, based on your testimony in the transcribed interview, can you tell us who swore you in as special prosecutor?
As I said, I know I took the oath of office. I don't recall who swore me in. What I can share with you.
I don't know, sir. Call me naive, but that's a milestone career move for you that you get to do this, and you don't remember the circumstances. I just find that a little bit odd. But here's the thing, and I'm going to wrap up quick. You're unconstitutionally appointed. You breached the 60-day rule, releasing this very partisan attack against the president right before the election. You tampered with evidence in the Mar-a-Lago case that you admitted to in court filings. You subpoenaed members of Congress and their phone records in violation of the Constitution, of current statutes. You didn't even let the court know that these were members of Congress. How are we to assume otherwise that this wasn't political? Because it absolutely was, sir. And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
And now the question that refuses to go away, the question echoing far beyond that hearing room, is this. How does the most powerful prosecutor in America spend months pursuing a historic indictment, burn through millions in taxpayer money, demand a lightning-fast trial built on 13 million pages of evidence, and yet sit under oath and admit he cannot even remember who gave him the authority to do it? That wasn't just a lapse. That was a crack in the foundation. Because authority in this country doesn't come from vague memories, political momentum, or bureaucratic convenience. It comes from lawful process, transparency, and accountability. And when that process suddenly becomes blurry, when timelines stop making sense, when the man in charge hesitates instead of answering, people start asking whether the system itself is being bent to serve something other than justice. You saw the moment, you saw the pause, you saw the discomfort. And you saw how quickly the narrative shifted from confidence to uncertainty. This isn't about personalities, it's about power, and whether anyone wielding that power can be questioned without the entire structure trying to close ranks. If you believe these moments matter, if you believe the public deserves to see every answer, every hesitation, and every contradiction for themselves, then don't let this conversation disappear. Like this video so more people see what happened. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next breakdown, and share this with others who deserve to know exactly what unfolded when the questions got too close for comfort. Because the truth doesn't spread on its own. It spreads when people refuse to look away.